What's up, guys? My name's Captain Stillwater, and welcome back to SPL in Review. Day 2, we got to see the European side of things, or at least some of the European side of things going down, versus Day 1, which was exclusively North American. Games we got to see were Panthera, formerly known as Epsilon, the world champions, playing Torpedo Gaming, Hungry for More playing the Leftovers, and Fnatic playing Dignitas. So let's just jump on into the first set here. We had Panthera versus Torpedo Gaming. We had Murder, ex-Kanye Life, playing Guan Yu, Moex on Rama, Carino on Kronos, Ninja Bobat on Neja, Game Hunter on Thor. And for Panthera, we had Emily2 on Sol, Iraffer on Emir, Yaman on Chiron, Dimmy on Bologna, and Adapting on Fenrir. So, jumping down here to the bottom, I'm going to start with Dimmy, because I don't know. This is the first guy in my notes. That's mainly why. He went 5-0-10, putting out a whopping 17k damage, the most in the game. Dimmy was an absolute beast in Game 1 and in Game 2. Personally, I think Dimmy is extremely underrated and not really talked about that much, but I don't know, man. He seems ridiculously good. He was going up against Game Hunter's Thor. So, interesting pick by Torpedo Gaming, putting Thor in the solo lane. You can do it, but going up against Bologna, rough days. Dimmy was soloing Thor, and I just remember I wrote down one specific note to highlight how well Dimmy was doing, and that at the 16-minute mark, Dimmy was 7 levels above Murder. Now, granted, Murder is the support, so you don't expect him to be too high level. As you can see right now, Dimmy is still 7 levels above him. It's just, that's the contrast of like what's going on. You look at the levels, 13, 17, 16, 15, 17 against a 20, 17, 19, 20, 19. Like, Panthera came out big. Adapting on Fenrir, honestly, I was most impressed by his ability to escape from overextensions or bad situations. He played very well, going 2-1-8. Not much else to talk about. Yaman on the Chiron in mid lane. So we got to see interesting pick here for mid lane. Chiron not usually looked to fill that position, but honestly, him and Adapting were linking up real well. Their combo was Fenrir ult into the Chiron ult. Fenrir just sits still. Chiron's guaranteed to hit the majority, if not all of his 3 shots, putting out an enormous amount of damage on whoever their target was. Iraffer coming out on Emir. Oh my gosh, this man's support is the dream. I wish I could play that well. He, once again, leveling his wall preferentially to most of his other skills, he just walled people off so well. I don't understand how he's that good with the Emir wall. Like, it's just ridiculous. It was astounding to watch. And then Emily2 on Sol, really good rotations. As I've said before, the ADC position, not much usually happens. They just kind of sit and duke it out a little bit. They don't even like attack each other too much in this meta. It's really like, you really want that early game pressure for mid and jungle. But he played well. Jumping up here, Game Hunter, like I said before, he got pushed out of lane real hard by Bologna. There's not much he could really do. He didn't necessarily play poorly, but he was Thor against Bologna, and he got soloed. That's what happened. Ninja Bobat on Neja had some pretty good plays. Granted, he went 0-5. He got pushed out. He had a hard time going up against Adapting's Fenrir and not Emily2 and Yaman's Chiron in the mid lane. See, I just think Sol is in the mid lane, but it's not. Chiron was in mid. Yeah, he played well, and he had really good peel for Carino. That's what I remember. I remember him using the sash really well to peel Adapting off of Carino, because Carino was missing a lot of spells in Game 1 on the Kronos. He missed the time stop far too many times. That was really the highlight of Carino's play of that game. Just missing spells. Moex on Rama. he had some really good ults. The man's got really good accuracy with the Rama ults. Obviously, he went 2-0-0. No assists, no deaths. Kind of a highlight coming out of this game, considering if you look at the rest of his team. Copious number of deaths, but Mox was kind of left alone over there in the duo lane. Like I said, ADCs, that lane's generally left alone for the most part. As far as I can tell, a lot of the pressure is just in mid, and if you have the jungle control, you can rotate to duo, but it's not necessary. Murder on Guan Yu. Guan Yu's real good right now, but Murder, Kanye Life, likes to play aggressive. Just didn't work out. It just didn't work out too well this game. I don't know how much that had to do with his play. Personally, I think he played well. He had some pretty good ults, good ult stuns. He used Guan Yu well. It was just game one. Panthera had a really strong early game, and they just outplayed Torpedo. That was really all there is to it. Panthera's coordination looks top-notch. Best coordination, I'd probably say, in all the SPL right now. They look number one. That's really all there is to it. Let's jump on over to game two, where we see not much change. Murder once again on Guan Yu. Mox once again on Rama. Carino on Poseidon instead of Kronos. Ninja Bobat taking the Thor, and Game Hunter taking Chalk. An interesting pick here with the Chalk. Whoops. Panthera, Emily2 once again on Sol. Iraffer on Geb this time. Yaman once again on Chiron. Dimi taking Amaterasu instead of Bologna and adapting on Fenrir. So we see three of the same gods on this, two of them staying on their respective positions. Thor switching from solo to jungle for Ninja Bobat. Emily2, Yaman, and adapting all keep the same gods. Iraffer and Dimi switch it up. They go with a significantly later game-oriented team. Amaterasu obviously having early clear problems, and Geb having, the poop clear that Geb has. So let's just start down here once again with Dimi. Going 7-0-6, doing 18k damage. Getting beat by Yaman, I would like to point out, on the Chiron, which we'll talk about in a second. But Dimi, game two, he had questionable ults. He would ult in, and he'd hit one person, then he'd switch to two other people, and then he'd try to switch back to that first person. He ended up missing the stun on the Amaterasu ult a number of times, 2 or 3 times. But overall, Dimi played really well. Surprisingly, we didn't see him get outpushed in lane, which I will come to in a second when we get to Torpedo Gaming. Adapting, once again, really good Fenrir play, really good initiations this game versus the previous game. Honestly, just an overall improvement. Super strong, not much to say about that. Yaman on the Chiron. This was the game. Game 2 is the game where Yaman and Adapting really tried the Fenrir ult Chiron ult combo, and it was off a little bit. They would land one of the 3 shots usually, maybe 2, but definitely not all 3. But it was an interesting play to see come out. It was really smart, and it worked really well. And obviously, here's the point: is my main note is that he missed his ults, or he missed some of his ults, and yet he still did 19k damage, which was a poop ton more than pretty much everyone in the game except Dimi, obviously. So, missing the ults, not that influential, I guess. Iraffer on Geb. I don't ever know what to say about Iraffer because the man plays like a god. It's so ridiculous. Like, yeah, his Geb plays were great. His Geb shields were there. He played amazing. I don't think it was as good as Amir, but I think his Amir is just like stupid good. The walls from the Amir are stupid good, but his Geb also really good. He played really well. He outdamaged everyone on the enemy team except Ninja Bobat and Game Hunter, and he almost did as much damage as Ninja Bobat. So that's something to draw attention to as we finish up Panthera with Emily2 once again. Playing Sol. This game, he played safer in terms of he was rotating less and instead orienting his play towards split pushing, and so that's what he did. He split pushed a lot. They took like left tower, they took right tower. Meanwhile, they're just fighting in mid. Torpedo Gamer's just letting MLE2 go and take whatever he wants, rotating. He was 2-0-2, never died. I mean, if we look at Panthera, they only had 4 deaths. IRAF only dying once on the Geb, and Adapting dying 3 times on the Fenrir. Honestly, that's just brought about. That's just brought about by the fact that he was initiating. Obviously, you're going to get caught out every now and then, especially when you have a Poseidon on the enemy team. He can Whirlpool and Kraken you, and that would prevent Fenrir from escaping most of the time. Jumping up here to Torpedo Gaming, I guess we'll start with Game Hunter. He started Chalk, and not only did he start Chalk, he started Power Pot Chalk, and he did not attack Dimmy. And that was kind of a big issue, because Chalk's main perk is just raw damage output. Like, Chalk just does a ton of damage, and a ton of damage early. A Power Pot Chalk at level 1 with the Axe Throw, that's gonna do a stupid amount of damage. It's gonna, like, push you out of lane. Like, you can't take that damage. You have to avoid that damage, which means you have to avoid being in the wave. And Amaterasu has a tough time doing that because her clear is her dash and her mirror, mainly the mirror. And they're both straight line attacks, so you're either in your wave or, like, on the back end of their wave, shooting it like towards your own tower. But honestly, we didn't see enough pressure coming out from Game Hunter on the Chalk. He looked a little nervous. Maybe it was just coming off of Game 1 where he got soloed by Dimmy. He really didn't want to get caught out and get behind, because Chalk behind, let's be real, is not a thing. Ninja Bobat on the Thor. He had some really good double taps this game. He had some pretty good walls, I would say. He played really well all around. Not much else to say. Didn't have, like, the best game of his life, but didn't have the worst game of his life, that's for sure. Carino on Poseidon. As far as I'm concerned, it just did not have presence in the game. Poseidon, once again, early game, has a lot of pressure. The whirlpools. If you catch somebody in the whirlpool, it's stupid strong. I believe he went second item, Gem of Isolation. Pretty sure. I could be wrong. Which, like, if you Gem of Iso that early with the whirlpool, like, no one, like, people, like, can't get out of that. Like, it's hard. It's a cripple, so Chiron can't even dash out. So he's, like, he can be stuck inside that. But as far as I'm concerned, it just didn't have enough presence in the game. Moex on Rama again. Where are we in my notes? He had good ults, but for being the highest level on his team, he had the lowest damage output. It just, I mean, he was an ADC. His team was behind. He rotated, but there wasn't much he could do. And then Murder once again on the Guan Yu. He played well again. Like, there's not much for me to say. He went 1-5, but he played well. As far as I'm concerned, that was about as good as he could have done in what he was given. So overall, Torpedo played Game 2 much better early. That could have been oriented with the Chalk and Poseidon, though, giving them early game pressure over Chiron and Amaterasu in the solo and mid lanes. But the big thing to take from this game is Panthera look stupid strong. They look just as good as before. They're gonna bring a world of hurt to a lot of teams. So that's as much as I'm concerned with talking about this game. Panthera took it 2-0 over Torpedo, in case you didn't get that through what I was saying. So let's move on to Hungry for More versus the Leftovers, which brought some questions. We jump over here once again. Now, here's the thing, guys. I am recording this on the 26th at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And these stats aren't up, and neither are the Fnatic Dignitas stats. So, I don't know what's going on. I don't know how long I have to wait for stats to come up. But I would very much like to release the stats as quickly as possible, considering Panthera played today, and I already know the result of that game. So that's why I have everything, like, scrolled down, Because right above this bar right here, oh god, right above that bar right there is the results of the games. So I don't want to spoil it for anybody if you haven't seen it, so that's why I'm not scrolling up there. So let's just look at who won. Boom! Leftovers took it 2-0 over Hungry for More, which was kind of a surprise. People weren't really expecting Leftovers to be good. Everyone expected them to be a bottom tier team. And Hungry for More definitely have some work to put in. So let's just jump over to Hungry for More's lineup. Boom! I'm so glad. Wait. Okay. I gotta make sure nothing shows up right here for the other people. Anyways. Starting off at the top, I guess. This is out of order with my notes. Zindern played Xingtian. Variety played Tyr. Pretty Prime played Raijin. Ataraxia played Soul. And Captain Twig was on Hoonbats. Game 1. Actually, I guess I'll tell you who was on the other team before I get into this. Oh god, yes. Whew. I'm so glad nothing's displayed right here. Whew! Because Leftovers played today. Alright, let's look at it. Arkle was on Huyi. Nika was on Bologna. Sanjo didn't play, he's the sub. Jungler in the jungle on Neja. Cherio was on Giannis. And Badjo was on Athena. So, Hungry for More. Let's just start off at the top. Zindern. He had some really good initiations as Xingtian. He showed that Xingtian without health items is apparently pretty good. He ran almost entirely defense. I believe he ran Hide of the Urchin, Spirit Robe, and Mantle of Discord, which is more or less my favorite full defense build. If you're going to go defense, and those are the best items. If you're looking for more of like a cooldown, health-oriented build, I mean, granted, Spirit Robe and Mantle of Discord give you 25%, but if you're looking for more like a like a health cooldown build, then you would want Breastplate of Valor and Bulwark of Hope. But yeah, he had a limited health, but really good initiations, and showed that Xingtian actually can still be played at the competitive level, which was kind of a question coming out with his big nerfs. At the end of Season 2, he was pretty bad, let's be real. The root nerf really hurt him, but showing that he can be played still. Variety was on Tyr. He had very good plays, but he was kind of passive in Game 1. I would have liked to see a little bit more aggression coming out of the Tyr, just because Tyr is so good right now. He's just good. Pretty Prime was on Raijin. He put out a lot of damage coming out of the Raijin, and he had pretty good mobility. That's pretty much all I have to say right now. Ataraxia had decent play, high damage output. He was on Soul. That's kind of what you expect coming out of your Soul. And then Captain Twig on Hoonbats. This was the big issue for me, and the big issue, honestly, if you ask me, in terms of why they lost their games. Hoonbats, Captain Twig got caught out a lot early, and that was kind of a problem, and it put his team a little down, a little bit behind, which is kind of rough for their makeup. They had Tyr, Raijin, Xingtian, Soul, and Hoonbats. But with that said, late game, he kind of came online and had really good initiations. He had really, like, jump in, and then Fear No Evil was there. Like, early game, the Fear No Evil didn't really have that big of an impact, but late game, this was good. I want to say, was Game 1 the one that went? Yeah, Game 1, Hungry for More Leftovers. This game was like 63 minutes long. Not as long as the Luminosity enemy game, which was 73 or something like that. This game was stupid long. And so Hoonbats, like his late game Hoonbats was real good. And what happened was they ended up losing the game. Ataraxia, Pretty Prime, and Variety got caught out and died. Zindern had just respawned, I think. And Captain Twig, all of Leftovers came barreling down mid lane. Captain Twig kind of got caught out and had to burn his ult in the mid lane. And Zindern on Xingtian also burned his ult. And so when they retreated to defend the Titan, neither of them had ults. There's nothing they could do. Leftovers just kind of pushed the Titan and won. Jumping over to them. This is still Game 1, guys. Looking at Arkle, he was on Huyi. Honestly, as far as I'm concerned, he had next to no impact in the game. I don't remember him playing. And I don't mean that as like an insult. That's just how I saw it. Like, he didn't have a big impact, but maybe that's all right. Like, he didn't have to have a big impact. He played solid, and that's really all that he needed to do. Like, he didn't need to be Zapman coming out 8-1. Like, he played well. They won the game. Cool. Nika on Bologna. She was leaning against, where is it? Variety on tier. Honestly, in my opinion, Nika just had a hard time on Bologna. Just not really having the game that you really expect from your Bologna. Could have played better, definitely, in game 1. Jungler was on Naja. Also had a pretty low presence early and throughout the game. I felt like he didn't have as big of an impact as Captain Twig's Hoonbats, but that is kind of like Hoonbats, you know, team initiation, whereas Najad's really, you're just looking to pick off one of the squishier kids in the back. Cherio, this man, what the heck? So apparently this guy plays from Egypt. Like, okay, that's cool. Apparently he plays competitive with 160 ping, and I'm like, okay, I play with 110 ping because my internet's crap. I live in California. This man plays competitively, and he played Giannis with 160 ping. I don't think I could hit portal chops with 160 ping, and this man, this man did not miss. He didn't miss anything. The only critique I have is game 1. He was quick to ult in scenarios where he probably shouldn't have burned the through space and time, considering it's such a good ult and it's so team-oriented. So I want to see him use that a little bit more effectively in the future for like team initiations rather than just burning it just to burn it. And then Badger was on Athena, who had decent initiations, but he was going up against Xingtian and Hoonbats and Tyr, so like, and like I said, Nika wasn't playing the best on Bologna, so Badger didn't really have the best initiations, but they were decent. He kind of played more of a reserve peel Athena than he did initiation Athena. Honestly, in my opinion, Hungry for More kind of threw game 1. I think they should have won. They had a much better late game team. They're playing really well, and then they just kind of got caught out, getting a little over aggressive, and Leftovers punished them for it. Punched him big time. Just kind of barreled down the mid lane with the Cherio ult, and boom, won the game. So let's jump on back to Hungry for More for game 2. We had Zindern. Where are we? Zindern was on Athena this game. Variety was on Amaterasu. Pretty Prime was on Raw, which was an interesting pick for me. Ataraxia was on Chiron, and Captain Twig was on Thor. Oh god, hold up. I accidentally just minimized. Arkle for the Leftovers was on Neath game 2. Nika was on Ravana. This is a big like, Nika was on Ravana. We'll come back to that. Jungler was on Hoonbats this game. Cherio back on his Giannis, and Badger was on Sobek. So, Hungry for More. Zindern, game 2, Athena. Honestly, the only note I have is I felt like he didn't have a big impact. The initiations weren't there. He played better as Xingtian. Variety, game 2, Amaterasu, decent. But outpressured, in my opinion. During the laning phase, obviously, Amaterasu is kind of weak, and Ravana is very strong, so he got outpressured. That was just kind of a bad luck for him being picked into Robin. Or Robin being picked into him, rather. Pretty Prime on the Raw. I felt like this was a bad choice. Raw is not that good. He's not bad. He really has to be in a team comp that works for him. The sets for Raw were, you had Amaterasu's ult, which was alright. You had Thor's double stun. You had the Athena taunt. That was about it. And considering Zindern didn't have that much aggression, or at least didn't play that well, and Amaterasu kind of got outpushed early, the sets weren't really there for Raw. I think it was a bad pick, personally. There are other gods that were still open that were significantly better choices, in my opinion, than Raw. Ataraxia hit a limited impact in this game. This is kind of like, you guys are kind of getting the feel for my opinion of Hungry for More in general. Just kind of limited impacts coming out from the majority of their players. Like, nobody really stepped up and made that big difference on the team. Captain Twig played the reverse of his game 1. He was strong early, but late game on his Thor, he was just getting blown up. He would just go in, and then it would just be like boom, boom, like 2 shots hit him, and he would just die. So yeah, much better early game improvements on that. Still a question mark. We'll see how he plays in the future, if he has more of a balanced game where he's not like, where he's good all around rather than being good in either the early or the late. I think that would help a lot. Jumping over to the leftovers, we had Arkle on Neath. Limited engagement, but as Neath didn't really need to. He had good ults. That's what it was. I'm trying to think of what the word for it is. He had really good ults, really good sets. Obviously, the Neath ult is global, which allows him to have presence in team fights, even when he's not there, which was quite nice for their team, and it worked out really well. Nika was on Ravana. It was Ravana against Amaterasu. Amaterasu has no push early. Ravana, outpushing Ravana is not an easy thing. It's a very hard thing. And when you're on Amaterasu, that's not going to happen. So Nika had a huge early game. Got really far ahead, or maybe not really far ahead, but got ahead, and made his presence known across the map. So kudos to him. Jungler, Hoonbats, honestly had really good combos in this game. Really good jump in, slows, and then ults, and then, you know, putting on that Hoonbats crit. Cheerio, the man of the match, in my opinion. Game 2. My note literally says, bow down to this man. This guy played amazing. He hit every unstable vortex. He hit, like, every portal drop. He was using his ult offensively. Like I mean, he was like, like he went for like 5 feet, like ult shots on people sometimes. But he played extremely well. Watch out for this guy in the future. We only got to see him on Giannis this time. Both games were on Giannis, but I mean, I don't understand why Hungry for More didn't really ban out the Giannis. And they picked Ra. That was another thing. It was Ra against Giannis. So Giannis obviously having more of an impact. Ra has the healing and the sustain for his team. He does have a good lane push. He has good burst damage if you actually hit it all. But Giannis just, in general, easier. You just kind of hit the shotgun and portal your team around. So big game for Cheerio. We'll have to keep an eye on him in the future. And then Badja coming out on Sobek. This man's ults did way too much damage. That's all I gotta say. He did way more damage than I really expected him to on the Sobek. Played well. And that was Hungry for More versus Leftovers. It went 2-0 to the Leftovers. I guess Hungry for More just didn't want them. Jumping on over to Fnatic versus Dignitas. Where are we? This game, once again, match statistics not available. Let's check out what happened. Mind you, this was the game. This outcome was not what most people predicted. It went 1-1. Team Dig versus Fnatic. Jumping on over to Dignitas. Game 1, we had the Dark Dodo on Chang'e, which was an interesting pick for the solo lane, considering we're not really sure how strong mages are in the solo lane in Season 3. So we got to see Chang'e on the Chang'e on the solo lane this time around. And we'll get to that pretty soon. Frostiak was on Hoonbats. Irens was on Rama. Shadow Nightmare was on Kronos. And Suntouch was on Bacchus. Fnatic. Oh, nice. It actually covers up the results. Whew. Wait, but these are from 2015. Ignore that. Yeah, these are all 2015 games, so we're fine. We're good, guys. We're good. I just want to make sure I'm not spoiling things. Big Man Tings coming out on Athena. Jiffy coming out on Fenrir. Maniac coming out on Bologna. Reels was on Neath. And Zyros was on Ra. So I guess we'll start with Team Dig, the Dark Dodo. Chang'e chose to go sprint over teleport. But with that said, it saved his life right off the bat. A gank came out from Jiffy on the Fenrir, and Chang'e was able to sprint. Dark Dodo was able to sprint out and stay alive. And Jiffy came over, and he was like 3 creeps away from level 5. So what his plan was, jump in as Maniac on the Bologna, killed the archers or the melees, I don't remember, which would level him up, and then he would be able to ult and insta-grab Chang'e. Didn't work out that way. Chang'e got away. That was kind of the only gank on that side of the map for the majority of the game. Frostiak coming out on Hoon Bats. He had great disruption, as Hoon Bats can have. He played well. He played well in both games, in my opinion, but that's really all there is to it. Irons, he was on Rama, so early game kind of non-existent, but he had a really good mid game. He just played well all around in terms of his general play. Game 2, he kind of, I don't know, didn't play that well, but we'll get to there. Shadow Nightmare on Kronos, he had a huge late game, but that's Kronos. You know, Kronos late game can just run over people. And then Sun Touch. Oh, Sun Touch. This is his return to the SPL. He's been gone for a while. I don't really know. I haven't been too uppity on SPL in the past, but now I am. He played Bacchus, and he had great initiations. Game 1, he was on the bottom right corner of the jungle on mid, right? With Duo being on the left side of the map. He was on the bottom right corner of the mid jungle. And he would jump in and just insta-kill Zyros, who was on Raw, and couldn't get away from him. Suntouch, huge game 1. He played, he was the best. He was the best. He was the man of the match. He played amazingly game 1. Came out, threw down. Questions were on him as to whether or not he was going to be good when he returned, whether or not he could do this, and questions have been answered. He came out strong, and yeah, he played really well game 1. Fnatic, Big Man Tings. Where are we? Big Man Tings was on Athena. He had really good ults this game. He saved Chang'e. Wait, wrong team. I lied. That's game 2. But he had good ults this game and really good taunts. He played really well, which was nice to see. Questions were on a lot of people on this team as to how well they were going to play, and he came out and, in my opinion, he played pretty well. Jiffy, like I said, Fenrir, he had the failed gank on Chang'e early. Generally just got picked off. Not too strong game 1. Maniac was on Bologna. Really good stuns and really early pressure. He was laning against Chang'e, obviously, so he kind of just bruised Chang'e out of the lane, but at the same time, Chang'e has sustain and was able to, like, it's not like all of Chang'e's attacks are AoEs, so you know he's hitting Bologna at the same time he's hitting the creep wave, so but he had early game pressure. He invaded the enemy jungle. I don't particularly remember him securing too many buffs, but I know they invaded. Reels was on Neath. Just like in the past games, not really too big of an involvement in the game outside of ults. The ults were there, but that's about it. Zyros, he was on Raw, and once again, there are better picks. There are better picks than Raw. So far, we haven't really seen Raw play well, and Bacchus was on the enemy team, and with the early game aggression and the huge damage coming out on Bacchus, he just got picked off, and it was a rough time for him in the mid. I just don't think Raw's the best pick unless your team is really well oriented towards peeling for him in scenarios where people aggress on him, because why wouldn't you aggress on Raw? He has no way out. None. So, game 1. Where were we? We're on Dignitas right now. Game 1 goes to Dig. That's what I wanted to make sure I was on the right team. So game 1 goes to Dignitas. I think it's mainly due to Suntouch's early game rotations into the mid lane, putting huge pressure on Zyros's Raw and really pushing him out. And it gave Shadow Nightmare like just a big lead, which allowed Kronos to get big, and then Kronos just dunks damage on you. So Game 2. The Dark Dodo was on Chang'e again. I thought this was an interesting pick to bring back. Didn't really have too big of a presence. Late game it had sustain, and the ult's obviously really strong. But early game, outpushed. I felt like picking it a second time was really risking Fnatic putting pressure on you, especially early, and pushing you behind. Frostyak was on Odin in the jungle. I like this pick. We'll get into it in a second. Shadow Nightmare was on Isis. Suntouch was on Athena. And Irons was on Rama again. Let's go through this a little bit faster. Big Man Tings was on Kumbhakarna Game 2. Jiffy was on Thor. Maniac was on Bologna. Reels was on Kronos. And Zyros was on Neath. So, Mage in the duo. And ADC or Hunter in the mid. So back to this. Chang'e was a bad pick. Game 2. It worked once. They tried to push it again, and it was a bad idea. Just not that influential, in my opinion. Not as good as the Game 1 result, so probably should have looked for something different rather than picking Chang'e twice and allowing yourself to be taken advantage of. Frostyak in the jungle, not enough pressure early. They did an Odin-Isis combo, which is a huge early game boost. Like, that's a lot of damage early game, and they just did not use that pressure to push Fnatic down. They just kind of played a little passive. Late game, however, Frostyak played like a beast. His bird bombs were still doing damage, like significant damage, which was really surprising, and his ults were great. Irons played Rama. He had a rough game too. He got caught out late game. He had some backdashes into like jungle walls and into Jiffy's Thor made walls. He just got caught out. His escape wasn't on par. So he had a rough time with that. Shadow Nightmare on Isis played decent, but once again, there wasn't enough early game pressure in my opinion. The one big thing was Shadow Nightmare and Frostyak comboed their ults perfectly. Like, Shadow Nightmare put that thing, the Isis ult, perfectly in the Odin ult. Like, there wasn't even like an inch of free space where you could potentially not take the Isis damage. Like, you were taking the Isis damage. But with that said, not enough pressure coming out from the Isis Odin in the very early game. Suntouch was on Athena. He played passive early, but he played well. Once again, he came out not as strong as the Bacchus game. I would have liked to see the pressure from the Athena, Isis, Odin. Like, Athena's global ultimate really helped. He had one huge play saving the Dark Dodo. This is what I was talking about before. He ulted onto Chang'e, onto the Dark Dodo. And, like, the Neath ult from Zyros was coming. And, like, Chang'e steps back as Sun touches the landing, as he's landing, and he lands, like, a second before the Neath ult gets there, and he takes the Neath ult instead of Chang'e, saving Chang'e's life. It was pretty amazing. It was a really good play. I don't know if it was on purpose, but it was just a cool play to see. Jumping on over to Fnatic. Big Man Tings on Kumbhakarna. Great initiations. Kumbhakarna is, like I've said before, one of my favorite gods. He's just stupid fun. Great initiations, like putting people to sleep and then waiting for his ult to come off cooldown to ult them. He had one beautiful rotation into the mid lane. Shadow Nightmare had no idea it was there, and he just walks up and like, he got real close to Isis. Like, he had to almost be on Shadow Nightmare's screen, like from behind. Isis, they're facing the same direction, so Isis could not see him. He just comes up right behind him and then just goes boom. Epic uppercut straight into the air. Blew up Shadow Nightmare. He did a ton of damage. He played really well. Jiffy in the jungle on Thor. Personally, in my opinion, needed more rotations. He should have put more pressure on the Dark Dodo than he did. But overall, he played all right. I just think he needed to rotate more and really put that pressure, considering the Isis Odin were not. They're playing really reserved, in my opinion, and the Dark Dodo's on Chang'e again. Like, just rotate over there, push him under the tower, push him out, put the poke on, force him behind, and give Maniac even more of a lead. Once again, Maniac was on Bologna, and, you know, he had really good laning. Obviously, he was going up against Chang'e. This is the same lane as the first game, so he had already gotten a little practice in and took advantage of it. Reels was on Kronos. He had really good plays. He came in big, as Kronos generally does, you know, putting people to sleep and hitting them way too much. Zyros played much better than Game 1. Obviously, he was on Raw Game 1. He was on Neath Game 2. Really good ults. More damage. More presence. Really nice. Fnatic took Game 2. Whew. And those are all the games. So, quick recap. Jump back to this page. Panthera, 2-0 over Torpedo Gaming. They look ridiculously strong. Torpedo, things to work on. I think these three people in particular, I think maybe mainly Carino needs to, I don't know if it was early game nerves, you know, first game in the SPL. I think, you know, there's plenty of room for improvement. I think this combo needs to just work a little bit better. Hungry for More versus the Leftovers. They got 2-0'd by the Leftovers. Leftovers played really well. Let me jump on over to my notes. Hungry for More through Game 1, in my opinion. They really threw Game 1. And Game 2, Cherio just went too big for Hungry for More to take. So just notes would be pay attention to how well Cherio plays, and we'll see how the Leftovers do. They were considered, you know, a last-place team in the European division, and maybe they're not going to be. And then Team Dig versus Team Fnatic. People were really expecting Fnatic to come out stronger than they did. So keep an eye on them. I think Jiffy is going to be an interesting position. He's their jungler. I think we're going to have to keep an eye on him and see how well he plays in terms of his rotations. I think his rotations have room for improvement, and I think they will improve throughout the season. Dinatic. That's right. The new team. My team, Dinatic. Dignitas here. All eyes were on Suntouch, and the man played really well. I would say keep eyes on him to see how well he continues to play. All in all, I want to see the Dark Dodo bring something other than Chang'e to the solo lane to really help his team in earlier fashion. Chang'e, you know, can't really rotate out of lane for a long time, but when Chang'e can, decent impact. But I would like to see maybe a more early game oriented bruiser to try and help his team. So there you guys have it. That was SPL in review day 2. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I will be making a video for day 3, day 4, and day 5. I would scroll up and show you guys the schedule, but it's going to reveal what happened today, so I can't. But yeah, I believe there are 5 days in the first week. I believe it's 5-day weeks, right? It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday. Yes, so 5 days. And then after that, I will no longer be making daily videos. I will be making weekly review videos on how the SPL is transgressing throughout the week. I just wanted to make daily videos at the start, considering there are a lot of questions on a lot of players. And I think a lot of those questions have been answered, and I think there are still questions on other players that we weren't really expecting to have questions for. So I will see you guys tomorrow for my review of the game that happened today. So, if you guys enjoyed the video, like I said before, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I will see you all next time.